The billionaire tossed the dusty patent folder across the polished conference table with a grin that echoed through the room. Several executives laughed as the worn papers slid toward the quiet single father standing near the door. Someone joked that the file was worth less than the coffee they were drinking. Then the billionaire shrugged and offered to sell the forgotten patent for just $50. The room laughed even harder as the humble father slowly reached into his wallet and counted out every dollar he had left. Nobody in that bright boardroom imagined that exactly 1 year later, the same, worthless, patent would become the foundation of a revolutionary clean energy breakthrough valued at more than $300 million, changing one father's life forever while teaching everyone else a lesson they would never forget. Before this unforgettable story begins, if you believe kindness, humility, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes people should never be judged by appearances, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise. Your support helps us continue creating emotional stories that inspire hope and remind the world that sometimes the greatest opportunities arrive disguised as impossible dreams. Ronan Pierce never imagined his life would become a daily battle for survival. 5 years earlier he had lost his wife to a sudden illness, leaving him alone to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Isla. Every morning before sunrise began the same way. He made pancakes because they were Isla's favorite, packed her school lunch with handwritten notes of encouragement, and drove her to school in an old pickup truck whose engine had nearly as many years behind it as Ronan himself. Afterward he spent long hours repairing factory machinery inside a small industrial workshop where every paycheck barely covered rent, groceries, and school supplies. Although few people knew it, Ronan had once been considered one of the brightest engineering students at his university. Financial hardship had forced him to abandon graduate research before completing his degree, but his passion for solving mechanical problems never disappeared. Every evening after Isla fell asleep, he transformed the corner of his tiny garage into a workshop filled with salvaged parts, notebooks, and hand-built prototypes. He believed every invention that failed still carried a hidden lesson waiting to be discovered by someone patient enough to keep looking. One sunny spring morning, Ronan visited Ashcroft Dynamics hoping to purchase several pieces of surplus manufacturing equipment that had been listed for liquidation. The company belonged to billionaire entrepreneur Malcolm Ashcroft, whose technology empire stretched across multiple industries. Famous for rapidly abandoning projects that failed to produce immediate profits, Malcolm had accumulated warehouses filled with forgotten inventions and discontinued research. Ronan wandered carefully through endless rows of discarded machines until his attention settled on a dusty metal filing cabinet marked Archived Patent Division. Inside one drawer rested a worn folder labeled Adaptive Thermal Recovery Matrix. Curious, Ronan quietly examined the technical drawings. At first glance the invention appeared deeply flawed. Previous engineers had concluded it wasted more energy than it recovered, making commercial production impossible. Yet as Ronan continued reading beneath the bright afternoon sunlight pouring through the warehouse windows, something extraordinary caught his attention. Hidden among the original calculations was an elegant engineering principle decades ahead of its time. The concept had failed not because it was wrong, but because the advanced materials required to build it simply had not existed when the patent was created. Before Ronan could finish studying the documents, Malcolm entered the storage building accompanied by senior executives and investment advisors. Noticing the old patent folder in Ronan's hands, Malcolm laughed openly and explained that the company had wasted millions developing the invention before finally declaring it commercially worthless. Smiling confidently, he joked that the paper inside the folder was probably worth more than the patent itself. The executives surrounding him joined the laughter, convinced no serious engineer would ever waste time studying such a spectacular failure. Ronan remained respectful. Instead of arguing, he quietly explained that modern manufacturing techniques might solve several of the original design limitations. Malcolm barely listened. Amused by Ronan's determination, he casually offered to transfer complete ownership of the abandoned patent for $50 simply to clear storage space. Several executives laughed again, believing they were watching a desperate mechanic purchase an expensive disappointment. Ronan slowly opened his worn wallet. $50 represented nearly every spare dollar he possessed until his next paycheck. He thought about Isla's school expenses, groceries, and overdue utility bills. Yet something deep inside urged him not to walk away. Trusting both his engineering instincts and the quiet lessons his late wife had always encouraged him to follow, Ronan carefully counted $50 into Malcolm's hand. Lawyers quickly completed the legal transfer while amused executives returned to discussing billion-dollar investments. Carrying the faded folder beneath his arm, Ronan quietly walked back toward his old pickup truck without celebrating. He understood that owning a patent meant nothing unless he could somehow prove the forgotten invention truly worked. That evening, golden sunlight filled the small garage behind Ronan's modest home as Isla finished coloring beside his workbench. Long after she had fallen asleep, Ronan spread every page of the old patent across the table, comparing decades-old engineering calculations with the latest advances in modern materials science. As midnight approached, one small mathematical relationship suddenly revealed itself. His heart began racing. The invention had never been impossible. It had simply arrived 20 years before the world was ready for it. Unknown to the billionaire who had laughed while selling it away, history had quietly begun rewriting itself inside one humble father's garage. The following morning, bright sunlight poured into Ronan Pierce's small garage as he carefully rebuilt the abandoned invention using modern composite materials, precision sensors, and inexpensive components he had collected over the years. Every evening after finishing work and helping Isla with her homework, he returned to the workbench determined to solve the problem that had defeated an entire team of engineers decades earlier. Weeks turned into months, and although countless prototypes failed, each failure revealed another clue. Ronan never lost hope because he believed every broken machine was simply another lesson waiting to be understood. Money remained painfully scarce. There were evenings when Ronan repaired neighbors' lawn mowers and factory equipment just to afford replacement parts for his experiments. Sometimes he questioned whether spending his savings on the forgotten patent had been irresponsible. Yet whenever he looked at Isla sleeping peacefully in the next room, he remembered the promise he had made after losing his wife, to teach his daughter that courage means believing in tomorrow even when today feels impossible. 9 months later, everything changed. During a routine laboratory test conducted with the help of a former university professor, Ronan's redesigned adaptive thermal recovery matrix achieved an energy efficiency level that independent experts had previously considered impossible. The technology recovered waste heat with unprecedented performance while dramatically reducing industrial fuel consumption. Engineers repeated the experiment again and again, convinced the results must be an error. Every test confirmed the same astonishing breakthrough. The forgotten patent that had been mocked for years suddenly became one of the most promising clean energy technologies in the industry. News spread rapidly throughout engineering circles. International manufacturers, renewable energy companies, and research organizations requested demonstrations. Independent patent attorneys confirmed that Ronan legally owned every commercial right because the original transfer documents had been properly executed for $50. What everyone once dismissed as worthless had become the missing piece needed to transform heavy manufacturing around the world. Within weeks, several global corporations entered fierce negotiations to secure exclusive licensing agreements. Meanwhile, billionaire Malcolm Ashcroft watched the astonishing developments unfold with growing disbelief. His legal team thoroughly reviewed every document hoping to find an error that might invalidate the original sale. Instead, they confirmed the painful truth. The transaction had been completely legal. By selling the abandoned patent for $50 without recognizing its future potential, Ashcroft Dynamics had permanently surrendered ownership of one of the century's most valuable engineering breakthroughs. More difficult than accepting the financial loss was recognizing how quickly he had dismissed a thoughtful engineer simply because he lacked wealth and influence. 1 year after the sale, an international technology consortium offered $300 million to acquire the patent and license its worldwide production. Ronan accepted the agreement only after negotiating one important condition. The technology would remain affordable for hospitals, public infrastructure, and developing communities seeking cleaner, more efficient energy systems. He believed an invention capable of improving millions of lives should never exist solely to maximize corporate profits. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes perseverance can overcome impossible odds, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more emotional stories celebrating hope, resilience, and second chances. Special request. Please comment, never underestimate quiet determination. As the warm afternoon sunlight illuminated his small workshop 1 year after purchasing the forgotten patent, Ronan gently closed the same faded folder he had carried home for only $50. The papers inside had changed his future forever, but the greatest victory was not the $300 million. It was proving to his daughter that faith, hard work, and courage can transform what the world calls worthless into something truly priceless. After the remarkable sale, the world no longer viewed the adaptive thermal recovery matrix as a forgotten patent hidden inside a dusty folder. Factories across several countries had begun using the technology to reduce energy waste, lower operating costs, and dramatically decrease harmful emissions. Engineers who once dismissed the invention now studied it as one of the most important industrial breakthroughs of the decade. Yet despite the global attention, Ronan Pierce remained the same quiet father who still woke before sunrise to make breakfast for Isla. The $300 million changed their financial future forever, but it did not change the values that had carried them through difficult years. Ronan paid off every debt, secured Isla's education, and quietly purchased a modest home with enough space for a proper workshop. Instead of buying luxury cars or building a mansion, he established the Pierce Innovation Foundation, dedicated to helping overlooked inventors, struggling students, and single parents who had promising ideas but lacked financial support. He remembered too clearly what it felt like to be ignored by people who believed appearance mattered more than potential. One sunny afternoon, Ronan received an unexpected invitation to speak at the International Clean Energy Summit. When he arrived at the conference hall, he noticed Malcolm Ashcroft sitting among the audience. The billionaire who had once laughed while selling the patent for $50 looked older, quieter, and deeply thoughtful. After the presentation, Malcolm approached Ronan privately and admitted that losing the patent had been painful, but the greater lesson had been realizing how quickly he had judged another person's worth. He apologized sincerely for treating Ronan like a desperate mechanic instead of listening to the engineer standing in front of him. Ronan accepted the apology with grace. He explained that bitterness would only waste the second chance life had given both of them. The patent had become valuable because someone was willing to keep believing in it after everyone else stopped. Malcolm nodded quietly, understanding that the real loss had not been $300 million. It had been the opportunity to recognize greatness before the world forced him to see it. Months later, the Pierce Innovation Foundation opened its first research center in a renovated industrial building not far from the small garage where Ronan had rebuilt the original prototype. Young inventors filled the workshops with ideas, experiments, and hopeful conversations. Some arrived carrying notebooks filled with sketches. Others brought broken machines that everyone else considered useless. Ronan greeted each person with patience because he knew that one overlooked idea can change the future when someone is willing to listen. Isla often visited the center after school, proudly helping organize tools and welcoming new students. One evening, while watching her father mentor a nervous young inventor, she realized the greatest gift he had received was not money. It was the chance to give other people the opportunity he almost never had. Ronan smiled when she said that, knowing his late wife would have been proud of the life they had built together from hardship, hope, and quiet determination. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes perseverance can change destiny, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise for more emotional stories that celebrate hope, courage, and second chances. Special request. Please comment. Great ideas deserve patient hearts. As the golden evening sunlight filled the new research center, Ronan carefully placed the original faded patent folder inside a glass case near the entrance. Visitors often stopped to read the small plaque beneath it, purchased for $50. Believed worthless, changed millions of lives. Ronan looked at Isla smiling beside him and understood that the true value of the patent had never been the $300 million. Its greatest value was the lesson it left behind.